Thank you. Is it Wednesday? Well done. No one goes out on a Wednesday. Thursday's the day. Everything's so big in America except for these tiny waters. I'm going to take my coat off.
Sure. While you take your coat off, I'll do the intro. Hello, welcome again to everybody to the completely made-up adventures of Dick Turpin panel. It's currently available on Apple TV+. I'm Jesse David Fox, senior editor at Vulture, author of the book Comedy Book, How Comedy Conquered Culture and the Magic That Makes It Work. I'm here with Kenton Allen, executive producer of the aforementioned, and Noel Fielding, executive producer and star.
Yeah, it was very tough being an executive producer. I did a lot.
All over it.
I don't, because we're quite close to each other, and I couldn't hear what you were saying. It sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. I thought at one point you said, I'm a vulture. Did you say I'm a vulture?
Yeah, I said I'm a vulture. I work at Vulture. So I guess I am.
All I heard was, I'm a vulture.
I'll try to enunciate more.
It's not your fault.
So before we get into the show, I want to back up a little bit and talk a little bit about New York, since that's where we are. Noel, have you spent much time here? Are there things you try to do when you're in town?
I love New York, yeah, so I was very excited to come. I know, thank you. New York's amazing. So, and obviously we just did Jimmy Fallon, so it was a very New York experience.
Fallon wore the coat.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Fallon put on the coat. He looked amazing. Yes, we're in this hotel. It's very tall and it's got very amazing views. So at night, I just sort of stare out the window and imagine I'm Batman. And in many ways, I am. I am Man-Bat. Batman's cousin.
So, Kenton, I believe the idea of doing a Dick Turpin series started with you.
It's your fault.
Yeah,
So-
it's not.
First for the American audience who doesn't know who that is or what he is, can you explain who he is?
Quickly, Dick Turpin is a violent, psychopathic, criminal murderer, a deeply unpleasant individual, killed and murdered lots and lots of people, and unlike Robin Hood, he killed people and just kept the money and fucked off.
If I'd have known this, I would not have signed up for this show.
I mean, not a nice guy. But he was romanticized in the 18th century by a guy called Henry Fielding, who also invented the British police force. So
it was my great.
He was
auntie.
definitely overreaching. And then we grew up, Noel and I grew up on, there was a Dick Turpin kids show.
We didn't grow up together. Don't give the audience some. We had bunk beds, like Ernie and Bert.
Quickly through this. Adam and the Ants. Who knows who Adam and the Ants are?
We grew up on...
Really? Okay. There's
They're in tonight. They're in.
Yeah, there's an Adam and the Ants song called Stand and Deliver, Your Money or Your Life, I'm a Danny Highman, all of that, which was in the 80s. So at Big Talk Studios, the production company, which I am normally in charge of, although let's face it, that's a disaster. So I have been a fan of Noel's from the Boosh. Come on.
Since we grew up together.
Yeah. So, if you...
You could have just told me we're in bunk beds. No.
So how can you work with Noel Fielding? How can you work with Noel Fielding? You love the
can't.
Mighty Boosh.
It's impossible.
You know,
as you're finding out now.
Unless you grew up together. So we play casting bingo at the office when we've got nothing else to do. It's like, how are we going to get Noel Fielding to come and do something with us? Who could he play? Could he play Marilyn Monroe? Clearly not a good idea. And somebody said, what about Dick Turpin? And my colleague Victoria went, Noel Fielding. And then we rang up Noel and said, do you want to play Dick Turpin? And he said, yes. Stop calling me.
I said, listen, we grew up together. You know I had an Adam Ant poster. I said, yeah, it was that easy. Just ring me up. Do you want to work with me? And I go, yeah, I've got nothing on.
Yeah. I did phone it the week before and say, do you want to do a baking show? But apparently that was taken care of. So
I was busy putting the tent up. I said, listen, this is a big fucking tent. It's going to take a while.
So that was it. The Dick Turpin is like Jesse James or Billy the Kid or Ned Kelly, a horrible, violent criminal who we have mythologized and turned into a charming, dandy highwayman, thanks to this man's comic genius.
Well, and Adaman and Henry Fielding.
And Richard Carpenter.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it's
Who
more
are these people? Just for them to know.
Richard Carpenter wrote there was a series on, it was a drama that wasn't a comedy, wrote a series about Dick Turpin and made him quite dashing, swashbuckling, I would say. So really Dick Turpin is a bit like, he's not like Robin Hood, because Robin Hood was morally very, woke in a weird way, because he was ahead of his time. Whereas Dick Turpin, obviously, the most famous thing Dick Turpin did was ride a horse to York, all the way to York, which doesn't seem much these days. But I think back that horse was fucking knackered. The horse was like, yeah, not for you, mate. So
if we said what he did was he got an Uber to New Jersey, you wouldn't think that was the basis of a TV series.
I can't believe
But
how
that's
big.
sort of it.
I can't believe how cool the Ubers are here. They're so big. Sorry, that was just an aside.
Sorry, question, Jesse. If you don't interrupt us, we'll just carry on talking shit for ages.
We're British. We can't stand the silence. Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Well, Noel, it's been a decade since your last scripted show. You've been busy.
Jesus.
You've been busy. It's good.
You get less for manslaughter.
Can you discuss, what?
10 years. What have I been doing? I've been in the tent.
While you're in the tent.
Eating profiteroles and looking into Paul Hollywood's beautiful husky-like eyes.
Can you discuss, were you searching for something for your next project? You're like, I would want to do something like this if I were to do something, and then why this fit that?
It's so tricky because, the first thing I ever did was the Mighty Boosh, and thanks. We did everything that we ever wanted to do and dreamed of doing, We wanted to go to Edinburgh, we wanted to do a live show, we wanted to do an album, we wanted to do a festival, we wanted to do TV shows, we wanted to do all of that stuff, radio show. And we got to do it all. The only thing we didn't really do was a film. And we were together a long time, it was like a marriage. And
Didn't you write a film, though?
You
wrote two films?
We wrote two halves of two different films. And tried to put them together. No, one was like a musical about the last man on Earth, and the other one was a more kind of Booshy extended episode. But we sort of imploded at that point that we were writing a film, and we got divorced, and now we do still see each other, but we don't have sex.
Because you didn't grow up together.
So I think what happened is I was sort of having a breakdown, and I made luxury comedy, which is a breakdown. And thanks. I can't believe there's 4 luxury comedy fans. If only I'd have known at the time. No, but I was very proud of luxury comedy because we made it on a budget of about 25p, and we tried a lot of experimental things. And then after that, I just thought, you know what, I need something else, something different. And then when Bake Off came along, I was like, oh yeah, what's this? This is scaring me. What, am I going into a tent? And it's a cake show. What's happening? With Prue Leaf. But, I tend to go towards crazy, sort of scary things. And that ended up being an amazing experience. But I was yearning. I didn't know I was yearning. Sometimes you're yearning and you don't realize it for a comedy show again.
And then when you heard this, why were you like, this is what I've been...
Because it was Dick Turpin, and because it was period costume, and because I could immediately imagine myself playing Dick Turpin. Sometimes someone will offer you something and you'll just think, I can't really do that, or I don't know how I would do that. But your sort of ego and vanity get in the way, and you go, yeah, I'll do that, and you're terrible at it. But I think with Dick Turpin, I had like a little inkling that I could maybe do something with it. So I was very excited. And it also hadn't been written, and it hadn't been made.
There were 4 key words. Leather, thigh-high boots.
Leather thigh-high boots and a lady's blouse.
So then when, Noel, you came aboard, how did the show then start taking shape to be the show that we saw?
We really didn't know what we were going to... We had ideas. We were like Holy Grail, Princess Bride, Blackadder, Men in Tights, all those things that we really loved, but they're all brilliant. So, you know, you whisper, I can't imagine, Princess Bride is amazing. We better not say that, though, because it's so good. You don't want to sort of disappoint anyone or build it up. So we were sort of shooting for all those kind of things. Python, mainly, Holy Grail.
Time Bandits.
Time Bandits, yeah, all that stuff, all the fantasy stuff, you know?
Yeah.
It's really the only stuff that I'm interested in, you know? I'm not really that. Don't let that person out.
But it did feel like there was the stuff that we grew up on wasn't there to watch. There's a lot of shows which were people in offices or houses talking to each other. But that's what a lot of comedy is. People in offices or houses
Can't see that
talking
kind of
to each other.
comedy.
It's not really a massive pitch, but the opportunity to do something that was cinematic and fantastical and had surreal elements, and you could do big action comedy and, you know, just fulfill your kind of childhood dreams of how to make a comedy that was funny. We did set out to make a funny comedy, which hopefully we're on the route to, but also to have the money, and this is obviously an ugly thing to talk about, but have the money to realise the mad, lunatic, fantastical thoughts of Noel and the writers. And that was really important, because often you can undercook these things, they don't come off, but to have...
It's nice to have a little bit of a budget.
It's nice to have a little bit of
Otherwise,
budget.
you have to do what we did in the Boosh and make stagecoaches out of cardboard and then animate them.
But then you have to if you have a little bit more money, you have to really, 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 really go, that joke. In episode 1, there's a cartwheel that goes throughout the show and eventually kills Hugh Bonneville, Jonathan Wilde. That's a big decision to make in a comedy. So it's just to do things which was verbally funny, but also physically funny, and had kind of pratfalls and physical comedy in it, as well as just jokes. And a lot of comedy has just been verbal.
I think you have to build the world for a show like this, because it has to be authentic and it has to look like a place where Dick Turpin could have lived, you know? I think if it was you pretending to make that world, that would be great on stage. But I feel like it needed to have a little bit of filmic.
And then the other thing was to try and bring this amazing ensemble cast of the best of British comic actors and performers, the established ones and the new ones. So the Ellie Whites, this brilliant female force of nature that plays Nell in the show, but also to have Greg Davis and
Tamsin
Gregg and Hugh Bonneville and Jessica Hines. Episode 4 drops on Friday. Jessica Hines playing a witch. Diane Morgan. And we just wanted to try and export to the world, because you're making this show that goes on Apple and it goes out everywhere. Go, look, these are all our talented mates who can do this stuff, and they like dressing up as well as Noel.
We also had a couple of brilliant actors, you know, like David Threlfall, who plays Frank in Shameless, and Hugh Bonneville. So, yeah, and Tamsin Gregg is there's some amazing comic actors, some amazing actors, and there's some brilliant comedians.
What was it like to go to Hugh Bonneville, explain what the show was going to be?
Me and Hugh Bonneville are in love. It's powerful. We were handcuffed together. We lost the key. Well, I hid it in my pants, but we were handcuffed together for a week. It was hilarious. I watched Downton Abbey, and I never imagined that I'd be handcuffed to Hugh Bonneville for a week. And so, yeah, that's one of my bucket lists ticked. He was really brilliant, a very skillful comic actor, actually, and he's got a very similar clown status to Julian, so I found it quite easy to play in a double act with him, because he's high status and I'm a low status clown. And it's so boring talking about clown status. That's one of my favourite topics, so I'd like to spend 2.5 hours talking and explaining clown status to everyone, the stuff that no one wants to know and doesn't make anything funnier. He's very pompous, and yes. I can prick that pomposity. So, yeah, we worked quite well together.
And did he get what the show was right away?
I think he's still completely baffled by what the fuck he was doing, frankly. After the press launch, he went, "What is this?" No, he's a comic. You know, you've seen him W1A, presumably, and in Paddington, Mr. Brown. He's still in therapy. handcuffed to Noel for 4 days. Yeah, I still get the bills.
Funny enough, he said this, and I'm sure he won't mind me saying this. He said he was terrified because he knows I like to improvise and he doesn't like improvising. Not because he doesn't like improvising, but he doesn't feel he's good at it. And so he was really scared, he said, that I was never going to say the lines that were on the page. And he didn't get fucking disappointed, I'll tell you that one. What script, Hugh? I didn't bring it with me.
How much is the show improvised and not improvised?
100%. No, it's not. We work very hard on the scripts, but when you've got Asim, Chowdhury, and you've got people like Mark Wootton and Mark Heap, who's so brilliant at improvising, there's a naughtiness that happens, and comedians get together, and
the journey from script to screen is what Jessica Hines does in episode 4, The Rattle Hag, where we have this witch character on the page, which you haven't seen yet, but then when she applied her method to it and sort of channels Vivienne Westwood and Tracy Emin and God knows what else, and she creates this incredible character. So having a sandbox where all these incredible comic geniuses can come and bring something to the show and elevate what's on the page into something completely you would never seen coming. Greg Wise, that's a completely different person. Greg in episode 2, what he did with Leslie Duval's, like it's sort of on the page, but the clues are there. But once they come into the show and they meet the costume designer and the makeup and hair designer, and these things evolve out of the process of making the show. It's kind of incredible.
I also like writing for people when I can hear their voice. So I worked with Greg on Taskmaster and it was a great show. And Never Mind the Buzzcock. So I knew how he spoke and I knew his rhythms and stuff. So it makes it much easier if you know people, because you can write for them. So you at least give them stuff that's vaguely in their sort of wheelhouse and that they can work with. But what you really want is them to come in and put their sort of stamp on it. And I think comics like working in that way. So
were most of the guest stars' parts written for them?
Yes, I would say. Yeah, because we knew Hugh was doing it, we knew Greg was doing it, we knew we wanted Tamsin to do it, we knew we wanted Jessica to do it. I would say Jessica found it pretty much as she goes through a process, and we all watched it in horror, going, she's not going to pull this off in time. And obviously she never does anything bad, so we didn't doubt her, but we were just like going, we don't know what she's doing. And it was a bit of a surprise to us, but it was fantastic. And I think that's her process. Yeah. She just goes into a space where she has to sort of turn into this other person, which is it's called acting, I think. I don't know. I mean, I'm a stand-up. Who knows?
So they watched an episode, and how did you figure out the balance of reality and imaginary you wanted for the show? Obviously, this is based on a real person. A lot of things happen that are contemporary things, magical, realistic things happen. How did you try to figure out the exact line you were trying to walk?
I think comedy's all about tone, isn't it? I think the tone is so important, and no one really talks about tone. That's because it's so boring. But imagine if you just only spoke about tone, people wouldn't. They'd leave the room. And but I think tone is, as you're developing the show, you can feel the tone, and you can feel when things don't feel like they're in the right show. Yeah, this is great, but it's not our show. And then suddenly, I think we found the tone really quickly, and that's Ben Palmer, the director, is really good at going, this is our show, this is what we need to do. And then once you've established that sort of template, you can...
I think it's also thinking about what the world was like at that time. And I always remember knowing this fact about the 19th century Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of the world's greatest rational detective, as a Victorian, slept upright because he thought that when he was asleep, a ghostly soul would empty his body. So at that time...
He was on a lot of cocaine.
He was taking a lot of... At the time, witches were real, and I'm not sure emeralds the size of a monkey's fist were real, but, magical coaches, this was things that people believed in, witchcraft and all of that. So you've got to... As long as everybody in the show thinks that that's what's going on, then you go on that journey. Also, we miss that shit. That's what we grew up on. That's why we're so damaged.
Yeah, I think maybe... we did grow up together. I think maybe we felt like we were quite lucky with, everything's the zeitgeist as well, isn't it? And everything's timing. I feel like we felt like we wanted to make a show about Dick Turpin, but we couldn't because the pandemic happened. It kept getting put back and put back and put back. And it took 5 years from the point when we decided, when you rang me up, to get to the point where we've made it. And, I was 12 when we started this show. I'm 88 now. But I think that we felt like we were going, wow, we could do a show like this, and there aren't really any shows like this. And then obviously Our Flag Means Death came along, and we were absolutely distraught.
A big fat oh fuck.
It's great because
then
no
they
one's
paved the
making
way.
stuff like this apart from that huge Disney show.
Yeah.
And they're brilliant as well. I love Flight of the Conchords. I love Taika. I love Reese. But Reese was very kind and did a post about this. And I think it's fine. I think this is, we did watch it. We made ourselves, and we thought, okay, this is different enough,
Mm-hmm.
You just have to sort of have the blinkers on when you're making stuff, That's what me and Julian used to go into a cave for 10 years and come out and go, we've made this. And everyone would go, you're fucking weird. It's the only way.
When did you figure out what your version of Dick was going to be?
Very quickly, we thought, well, he can't be a murderer and he can't be good at anything. So it's like, he's going to have to be a vegan. Well, we thought the vegan thing came out of the fact that his dad was a butcher. And why would he leave the butchers? And his dad keep forcing him to kill swans. And he's like, I'm a vegan dad. We also thought, who was a vegan in the 17th century? No one. Then we thought he's definitely a pacifist, and he's definitely a dreamer, and he's definitely inclusive, and he's definitely kind, and he definitely likes everyone and wants to have fun and use creativity instead of violence or guns or swords. And he can't ride and he can't fight. He's absolutely hopeless, but in a way, he's got ideas. And somehow, he's got a little bit of charisma, so somehow people follow him. But we're actually, weirdly, and you'll probably laugh at this, but in Butch and Sundance, Paul Newman is sort of like, his character has got loads of ideas, but he can't shoot and he can't really fight. And Robert Redford's good at shooting and doing all that stuff. And he's like, why don't we go to Bolivia? Like, it's such a brilliant character, someone who's always just got ideas but doesn't really have any skills. But it's like, we could do this. And everyone goes, oh, okay.
It's interesting because although Noel is a brilliant character comedian, I CF old Greg.
All roads lead back to old Greg.
Playing a violent psychopath is not his natural demeanour, I don't think. So it just seemed to lean into Noel's innate, I say this with enormous love, your innate childishness and innocence and kind of joy and kindness and all the sort of things you see in Bake Off, which is he's just a lovely, kind, gorgeous, creative, individual. He's an artist.
My parents are hippies. Me and my brother are very innocent, open, sort of, we think the world's everyone's amazing.
So leaning into that seemed to be an interesting way to go for this anti-hero.
The funny that you should mention old Greg, because I was trying to, my tour manager, the Boosh tour manager is tour managing Theo Von in Australia. And there's something amazing about him. And I was trying to get Sean to go, does he know who I am? Does he know who I am? And he has no clue who you are. And then he was like, he did this show, did that show. And he was like, I don't know that guy. And then he went, oh, Greg. And he went, oh, Greg, yeah, man. Oh, Greg. Oh, Greg, yeah, he can go. He was like really excited about old Greg. And I just thought, no matter what I do, I will always be old Greg. On my gravestone, we'll literally say, I'm old Greg! I was old Greg!
So clearly you have a lot in common with this version of Dick Turpin. Another way is you both dress well. How did you approach how he was going to, this look?
Never been more excited in all my life to have an Apple budget, an amazing costume designer, and a head full of dreams. I was literally in my element going, wow. Because, I think as well, I'm one of those people that once the costume's on, that's when I can really sort of imagine that I'm that person. And so it was great because everyone was in these brilliant costumes and we were out in the woods or in a pub and it just felt like we were in the 17th century. What's amazing about it as well, which I didn't get at the time, I'm quite slow at getting things, but I didn't really understand, I hadn't noticed that obviously we're in the 17th century, there's no phones and there's no politics and there's no internet, there's no social, there's nothing, there's no sort of anxiety around any of those modern things. It's sort of a world free of all of that, the trappings of all of that stuff, which felt nice to go back to a sort of simpler time for a bit.
Of pestilence, disease. The average lifespan is 37 years old.
People dying of toothache.
Yes, exactly. No Uber. Nightmare.
But it is weird because everyone's dressed like that, and then it's like cut, and everyone goes, "Oh, I just got to text my mate."
Another thing I think is interesting is you have in common with Dick is you're both put in position to be a leader. You're the number one on the show. Can you talk about that experience and what your takeaway was? Did that inform how you played Dick?
Found it quite, I'll be honest, I find it's easier to be in, say like in the Mighty Boosh, Julian was carrying he was doing a lot of the heavy lifting because that was his role, and I was fluttering around him like a childlike angelic simpleton. Sure. But I didn't appreciate how much work he was doing. When you have to sort of hold the whole thing together, it's another layer that you have to think about. And I was really worried because everyone's so funny in it and everyone's doing quite big, eccentric, crazy characters. And I was trying to be quite straight and quite normal and quite sort of, I was trying to hold it together and be quite calm. Otherwise, I thought it might descend into farce. But when you make those decisions, when you're acting, you're never 100% sure. You discuss it with the director and everyone, and you're going, is this the right way to go? I think this is the right way. Are we doing the right thing? And you just have to stick to your guns. Yeah. And then when I saw it, I was like, thank God. I mean, one of the influences was Graham Chapman in Life of Brian, which I think is an amazing film. It's the temptation for him. Everyone else is being so silly and brilliant, and John Cleese and Palin are doing all the showy-offy stuff, and he's having to sort of hold, and he's the audience's point of view, really. And it's so much harder, especially as a comedian, because you always want the laughs, So you're sort of going, I'm trying to exist so that everyone else can do the more eccentric stuff. So that's hard, but yeah, it's nice to have a bit of discipline and try those things. It's like karma, isn't it? I suppose Julian was doing that and I was just showing off. Now he's going, not as easy as it looks, is it?
What was your favorite episode to shoot?
Wow. To shoot? Oh my God, none of them. It was freezing. No, they were really good fun. I liked the sort of scenes with lots of comedians in a room. I loved those sort of scenes in Craig's Treehouse because for me to get Dolly Wells and Asim and all those brilliant Ellie White, you just got all those people riffing. It's amazing. But there were some crazy things we did, like stunts, weren't there? You handled that really well. You just didn't tell us we were doing it. 60 foot up on a bridge.
Can you explain what happened?
Episode 3, Wilde is handcuffed to Dick, and they're being chased through 18th century London, and they jump off a bridge into the Thames, which they don't really do because the Thames Authority won't let you jump off it into the Thames because you'll probably die.
Wankers.
Yeah. Puritanical killjoys, I think. So you end up building a 70-foot high replica of a bridge with a green screen and tell Noel it's 20 foot high and tell Hugh it's 20 foot high. Noel presumes Hugh's done lots of this. Hugh presumes Noel's done lots of this. It's a Tuesday, everybody's being very nonchalant, but we're all going, fucking hell, that's quite high. And they go up onto it, and then they jump off it, and then they do...
That is not what happened. We went up there and went, this is a lot higher than I thought it was going to be. Did you know about this? No, I thought you did. I didn't fucking know about this. Are they fucking kidding me? And then suddenly, like, there's 7 stuntmen, then there's like 20 stuntmen, and you're going, oh no, what are they gonna catch us? What's happening?
The risk was moderate, I'd say. There's a moderate risk of limb breakage or anything. It was not that high. It wasn't a high risk.
You're on a wire, but you're up high, and so usually when you're on a wire, you take off on a wire. So your brain goes, okay, you're on a wire. But when you're up there, and you just have to jump and hope that someone is going to catch you on a wire.
There's a wireman who does. His job is to do this all every day.
At him, and it's just a dude in a bomber jacket on his phone, going, Steve, get us a bacon sandwich. And you're like, this guy's is he going to do this?
They do it all the time. They're professionals, but they don't seem to be taking it as seriously as the actors are.
So we got out there, and I was thinking, oh my God, because I did wire stuff on the Boosh, but I've got children now, and I was like, obviously you're trying to stay alive for your children. When you're young, you don't care. You're just like, I'm invincible. And now you're like, oh my God. And so we got up there, and I thought, Hugh looked like he was just sort of, I've done this before. And I looked over and went, how is this for you? And he went, I'm fucking shitting myself. And I went,
darling. I fucking shitted myself, darling. I think so.
And my knees were actually knocking like I was in a Pink Panther cartoon. I couldn't believe it. And then we did it. And I thought, thank God we're alive. We've done it. And they went, okay, we just need that another 7 times. And I was like, oh my God.
These are the downsides of the Apple budget, because we can normally you just cross it out and go, we're not doing that. That's ridiculous. Can't afford that. Guess what? We can afford it. Up you go, Fielding. Up the big ladder.
Only when you do things like that you realise how insane Tom Cruise is. Just go, why would you do that? I mean, what a man.
Yeah.
Very different men, me and Tom Cruise. I like to do cosy scenes in a pub. He likes to stand on the wing of a plane that he's driving. Yeah, crazy.
Is there an episode, they watch episode 2, but is there an episode of the run where, especially after you watch, you're like, this is exactly what we're hoping the show to be?
I think
the episode you saw tonight, I think, is pretty close to what we wanted
and I think
to achieve.
3 is good in a slightly different way. 4, actually, the one with Jessica and the witch, is very. I think 4 and 2 are quite similar. There's a sort of a witchy kind of magical, fantastical element, which is what I'm always looking for. And
I mean, it would be arrogant to say this is exactly what we set out to do, because it's impossible, because it's such a leap into the dark. So, no.
I was trying to make a documentary about dance.
So, no, we're just delighted that...
it came out pretty close.
It came out all right, yeah. And we're delighted people seem to like it and get it, because it's it's not obvious, is it? It's not obvious at all.
I think with comedy, you never think you've done well enough. You always just, I think with Julian and I, we would just write, and you'd get it to a level where it's acceptable, but you'd always be thinking, if we could just get it a little bit better, a little bit funnier, make a bit more sense, a bit more... I don't think comedians are ever happy, really, with what...
Producers definitely aren't.
Comedians are ever happy.
But to be serious, because obviously Noel, the Mighty Boosh, one of the most adored comedy shows ever, certainly out of the UK, and something which sets a very high bar. So to make something else with Noel and go, well, can we be even half as good as that, or don't let him down and deliver for Noel something that is going to elevate what he does and capture what he does, but in a slightly more... I mean, it's going out to a global audience, so you want to entertain as many people as possible without losing the essence of... Yeah, but without losing the essence of what Noel does.
This up,
I don't know.
Everybody is going to see it.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think we fucked it up.
You won't be able to go on holiday.
I don't think fans of the Boosh and Noel will feel like, we've sold out. I think we've sort of hopefully embraced what's brilliant about Noel.
It's very kind, and I am very grateful, because everyone did try to sort of take elements of what I do and make it in a way that wasn't like the Boosh, but had elements of that, which it's very difficult because for years and years, anytime I went and tried to do anything that was a bit Booshy, people want more Boosh, so it's very hard to even go near that.
Yeah.
But then you realize that's what you do, so you can't completely reinvent the wheel and try to. That's the stuff that I like, But it's amazing. I mean, Kenton and I wanted to work together for a long time, and
Since we were in that bunk bed.
turn the light out. I need to go to sleep. One day we'll make a show about highwaymen. Highway people. I don't know. I feel like it's slightly freed me up because I feel like I now can do comedy again in that way. And I think I went to do the Bake Off, so it will be a different thing. So different from the Boosh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And I imagine the guest stars saw as an opportunity to do your style of comedy, right?
Well, I was really flattered and honoured that a lot of people like Asim and Mark Wootton were going, and Mark Heap were like, yeah, definitely, if you're doing this, I really want to do it, love the Boosh. And I was like, oh, wow. It was really nice to work with brilliant comedians, Like, literally, to have all those fantastic comedians, you don't get to do that. You just don't get to work with those people, Especially when the last thing I made, luxury comedy, was the budget was so small, I actually literally had to play everyone. And everyone was like, you should have got some more people in it. And I was like, yeah, I fucking know. I didn't want to have to play a koi carp and the moon and a nun and a chair. So it was lovely. Yeah, it was a complete opposite experience, actually.
Can you think of one of the actors in the cast or something where you're watching them being funny and you're just like...
Oh, Mark Heap is just a show. He's just a show. He's got the best timing of anyone I know. Other than Julian, probably has similar timing. He's got Hancock-esque timing, maybe Rowan Atkinson. But when you're just watching someone who's so precise that it's like a laser, and you're just literally enjoying it like a fan, even though you're in the scene and you're thinking I should probably be saying something, but you're just There were lots of people in the show like that, actually.
Yeah.
Diane Morgan is incredible.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any scenes with her, and I was gutted because I was so excited that she was coming to do it. And then they were like, you haven't got any scenes with her. And I was like, no.
And there's some treats coming up when, Jessica Hines, we said in episode 4, Connor Swindells from Sex Education
He was great.
plays the character of Tommy Silversides in episode 5 and 6, he's a phenomenally talented, funny man, and he just absolutely smashes it. And then Ellie White, I'm on the Ellie White kind of bandwagon. I think she's a phenomenally talented young British female
and also
writer performer.
Dolly Wells is in it.
Dolly's
She's
amazing.
in that one. Dolly's just every time she comes on the screen, there's some magic going on. So that was brilliant that she did it.
I guess because we don't have SNL in the UK, so we don't have a place where all this young, talented people can come and play. So a lot of it was like trying to create that environment where we could bring the best up-and-coming British comic writers, actors to the show. So I think Ellie is the standout from that. But there's lots of talent. There's a guy called Ed Jones who was Noel's kind of double in the show, but has a small cameo. He's an incredibly talented individual. So trying to provide a kind of a springboard for that next generation of amazing British talent is also exciting to me as a producer.
And Dwayne as well.
Dwayne Bocci's amazing, just trying to give that springboard to you have this amazing opportunity where the show is going to go out to the world. I mean, the person that runs Apple in the UK said it will drop on 2.4 billion iPhones. that's
Who said that?
Jay Hunt.
Oh, really?
I think there are 2.4 billion iPhones in the world. So when they message, I went, not the U2 thing. We don't want that. But just don't send 2.4 billion people the fucking show. But that would be that. We've seen that. That backfired for you too. let's not do that. But just to tell 2.4 billion people,
Why did that backfire?
because nobody wants a fucking U2 album just turning up in Apple Music. Well, thanks for that, Bono.
Humans are so weird. It's like they probably worked for ages
A
on that
free
album.
U2
And
album,
there
I know.
You go. We all
It's
went,
up.
fuck
Are
off.
you Bono's manager? No. So to just to
wish
have
I was.
2.4 million people being told this show's dropping is an amazing opportunity for humble British comedy producers. That's us, by the way.
I mean, in speaking of the international
What does
audience,
that note say, by the way?
these are questions from the audience.
Oh, great. Okay. It didn't say. It
let
wasn't.
me ask
Stop
one-
talking about you two. They will kill you.
Kill Kenton. The Edge.
The Edge is here. Well, I want to ask, well, speaking of the international audience, Noel, you've been working for a while. Though there's been access to it, this is the first time where you're making something simultaneously the UK and America can watch it. Can you talk about what America meant to you coming up in comedy, and what does it mean to now make something that will be here as we are here? We don't care about what the UK thinks about you.
America is incredible for comedy. I mean, the early Saturday Night Live stuff, Belushi, Aykroyd, I mean, Steve Martin, one of my favorites, Richard Pryor, Mitch Hedberg, Emo Phillips, Stephen Wright. I could go on forever. Mel Brooks, 2,000-year-old man. Just literally Frank Zappa, Captain Beefheart. Every American... Seinfeld, I love Seinfeld. Larry Sanders. I mean, literally, you could go on and on and on and on. It's like
You've been watching Seinfeld this week, haven't you?
Bill
in New
Hader.
York. Well, you watch a lot of Seinfeld this week.
I just put it on in the background. It's like they're my friends. I imagine I'm in that flat. I do love Jerry because I think it's a character that's very unusual. He's very optimistic and sort of. He's not like a usual comic character. It's hard to do those things. I like Owen Wilson as well. I like the laid-back nature of those characters that are quite charming and delicate, and not so grotesque. And I think we do grotesque really well in Britain. We do monsters well, but I mean,
Basil Fawlty, David Brent.
yeah, Jack Black as well, incredible. You've got so many incredible. It's just ridiculous, really. And stand-up, you've got so many great stand-ups that I think you can't not be influenced by American comedy. It's so brilliant. Will Ferrell, everyone's so brilliant. Stiller, I could just go on forever. It's just madness, really. Aykroyd, like Ghostbusters, doesn't put a foot wrong. What a film! It's just insane. Belushi, amazing, can kill you with one eyebrow lift. I love American comedy. So I would love to do all comedy where it goes on in America as well, but I've never had that opportunity, We did do Adult Swim, the Boosh was on Adult Swim. And Adult Swim's amazing, isn't it? Because it's where all the weird stuff lives. What an amazing place Adult Swim is. You mean they're going to put all the weird shows together on one place? It's like, wow. Yeah, but this is like a global grown-up thing, so I'm chuffed. I can't believe it, really. It's a bit like a dream. You know what? We did all this with the Boosh, and I thought that was kind of over, so this is like a second sort of... It's like a second adventure.
Don't say second coming.
That would be
That's
weird,
a different
wouldn't
thing.
it? A second bite of the cherry was like, is that the expression? That sounds weird as well. Second bite of the apple. I can't think what the phrase is.
So we have some questions that y'all write. Thank you so much for doing this.
Lovely handwriting, by the way.
It's amazing.
Some calligraphy.
I can read all of them. What would Dick Turpin think of the modern world? And or the show, this portrayal of him. If you could
I think he'd be very happy with the portrayal of him because I think he was a bit of a dickhead. Probably in reality he was a nightmare, but I think we've been very kind to Dick, haven't we?
Dick says he can imagine a time where men and women will do the same job for the same money, and that's happened. So
he's a prophet.
So he'd be very happy that we've got totally 50-50 equality for men and women.
I don't think he'd like the modern world. The modern world's a bit frightening and anxious, and there's a lot going on, isn't there? This is like an escape from all of that stuff. Like when I turn on the news, I'm like, oh, it's a lot. It's a lot for everyone. Everyone can feel the tension, the anxiety. We've sort of we've done some weird things. So I feel like this is a place where that isn't happening. Yeah. And maybe that's all anyone
He
wants.
would be quite good with Putin, though, I think. He could have a word with Putin.
Oh, my God.
Should we
he
edge off
definitely
this?
couldn't. Let's not bring him up.
Someone wants to know, Noel, do you actually know how to knit?
Yes. My grandma taught me how to knit when I was a tiny child. My French grandma, who sort of half brought me up, taught me how to knit. And I loved it as a child. And then I realised I hadn't forgotten, but it's like writing, one of those things, it's in there somewhere. And it's a hell of a skill, so I think we should all get involved in some knitting.
But tell your Shoreditch knitting anecdote. What happened in Shoreditch?
Well, I think about the time that I left Shoreditch, it was getting quite ridiculous, and there were sort of knitting clubs going on in pubs. And I think that was about the point where I thought, wow, this is quite a modern take.
I don't really know where Shoreditch is. It's like Williamsburg, I think.
It's like your Williamsburg, so there were sort of weird knitting clubs and it was brilliant. That's what it should be, right? That's what's going on. I think we just, if everywhere was like Shoreditch.
Yes.
I don't even live there. I'm like the mayor of Shoreditch and I don't live there. It's all a lie.
Someone wrote, I love the female characters in the show, ! Kenton, can you tell us about the casting process?
The casting process is, it's as Noel said, really. It's like we've all worked with a lot of these people over the years. Like I know Tamsin Gregg from Friday Night Dinner, Ellie White. We've been working with Jess Hines was in the Royal Family, playing Cheryl. If anybody knows the Royal Family, the show I produced 25 years ago. So a lot of it was, as Noel said, in the writing room, coming up with these characters and going, I know it'd be great for that. Jess Hines would be great for that, and then hoping that when you rang them up, A, they were available, and B, they want to read the script and C, they do it. So the casting process is sort of, and Ben Palmer also has worked with Greg Davis a lot and Asim a lot. So a lot of it was people that we collectively all work with. Noel worked with Dolly. So a lot of it is sort of organic in that kind of...
Kenton kept saying, I'm getting Hugh Bonneville, and I was thinking, there's no way you're getting Hugh Bonneville. And then he would deliver. And then he'd go, we'll get Tamsin Gregg. And okay, he's not getting Tamsin Gregg. And then he'd go, we've got Tamsin Gregg. And then he literally, I don't know how he does it. He's a genie.
Well, you've got the material. Well, how do you do it? You've got brilliant material, and you've got people that have got a great idea, and you've got Noel. And if you put great material and... great kind of ambition in front of these brilliant actors, they'll want to come and do it. And also, they're coming to do a guest part, so you're not saying, can you come and do this show and then sign up for the next 5 years of your life?
That's just me.
Yeah, that's him, that guy. But you're saying, come in and play with us for 10 days.
It's like a domino effect. So once you start getting a few good people, and people start to talk about it and go, wow, is Diane Morgan in your show? And Jessica Hines. But
then Connor Swindell's, we couldn't cast this. When you see Tommy Silversides, he's an incredibly confident individual, and we couldn't cast it. We kept going after people, and what was on the page was incredibly confident bullshitter. And then the casting director said, Connor Swindell's, so Connor had done this CPR promo video where he did, for a charity that does CPR, and he'd done CPR on a doll which was an exact replica of himself. And was doing mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and everything. And you're like, okay, it's him. It's that guy.
And then we were scared we couldn't get him because he was so right.
It was just perfect for it. So some of it is
but again,
brilliant casting
director
director.
Came back with Connor Swindell's. I don't know how he does it.
I mean, it's a team effort, isn't it? It's brilliant. It's people you know, people you want to work with, and then brilliant casting directors, and then just blind luck, really, it's mainly the material. People come and do great material at the end of the day.
Did anyone say no? I can't remember.
I've got a list that I will show you at some point. I don't think so, no. I mean, the people that we wanted that weren't available, a lot of it's availability. People are just not available. But who said nobody turned us down, I don't think.
Not really.
No.
We were very lucky.
We're very lucky.
Someone asks, Noel, would you consider having Paul cameo as a baker on Dick Turpin? I'm assuming Paul Hollywood from the show, Great British Baking Show.
Paul Hollywood. You know what? Paul's actually quite good. When we do little sketches in the Bake Off, he's quite a good actor. and he's got some presence. He's got a bit of a Brando presence about him. He is quite good.
It's quite a good idea, actually. Should we?
He could do it. Also, look at his eyes. It's ridiculous. His eyes just.
What happens when you look at his eyes?
You fall inside them, and then inside there's a sort of turquoise waterfall. Suddenly you're naked. You can't get back to the place, the portal that is his eye, to get out. And when you do, it's 10 years later and you've got a family.
So put you down as yes.
I'm also left-handed now. It's a weird scene in there. It's a weird scene.
So we'll end here. Maybe it's still early, but do you have hopes for a second season? What you might want to do with it?
I've fucking had enough of this shit. I'm going. We'd love to. We've only just got started. You know what? The first 6, you're like establishing everything, and then you're really excited. What can we do now? And so, yeah, we're hoping.
We're hoping, yeah. We'd love everybody here to please. You know, comedy works best on word of mouth. No, they can.
Don't put it on them.
They can. No,
you guys better sort this out, all right?
No. It is on them. There's a thing called social media. Who wanted Paul Hollywood in the show? We'll do that if you'll tell 10 friends about the show. Comedy works on word of mouth. So we need word of mouth in North America. But no, yeah, we hope for a second season.
America.
We're in North America.
We need word of mouth.
Word of mouth in North America.
Okay.
U2's next album title.
For these guys. Just came to a screening, just fancied it was a Wednesday. Jeez, now I've got to sort of try and get them a second series. It's not even a Thursday.
Kenton Allen, Noel Fielding, thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
Thank you much for joining us.
Thank you.
The completely made-up adventures of Dick Turpin, available now on Apple TV+. Enjoy your Wednesday.
Ladies and
Round of
gentlemen,
applause for this guy.
Jesse Vulture.